Hello everyone, welcome to this lecture on the bold and pioneering political thought of Mary Wollstonecraft. So in a world that denied women education and independence, she asked a revolting question. How can a how can a woman be virtuous if she's never taught to reason, if she's always subordinated, if she is conditioned to be submissive? And through her groundbreaking work on Vindication of the Rights of Women, she challenged the very core of Enlightenment ideals. To Wollstonecraft, freedom, virtue, and citizenship were meaningless if half of the society were excluded. And her political thought was not just about women, it was about the full humanity of all individuals. She stood up against all kinds of oppression. And she lived in an era dominated by patriarchal norms, जहाँ पे women were considered to be the factory to produce child, a procreation objectified thing. They were legally and politically invisible. They denied education, they were denied education, property rights, and right to vote. And in that world were born Wollstonecraft, and she launched a powerful critique against the whole fabric, the whole moral fabric of society. Then she is also widely considered one of the first modern feminist thinkers. फिर her important work, जो UGC exam के लिए important है, a vindication of the rights of women. Now let's jump on to her concepts. The first one is equality through education. So Wollstonecraft, she passionately argued that the root cause of women's subjugation was not biological inferiority, but the systemic denial of education. और ये उसने तब कहा जब her own time was a transition between Middle Ages and the Enlightenment ideals. Or Enlightenment ideals were not that pervasive, not accepted in totality at that time. So उस time पे ये चीज क्या है ना, it was quite bold assertion, and it was a path-breaking analysis in itself. तो उसके अनुसार that women were subjugated not because they have the biological inferiority, not because they are considered an object that is fit for procreation only, that fit for nursing and care only. The वजह है वो है systemic denial of education, that women were denied the education, and education by itself, भले ही Wollstonecraft ने directly नहीं कहा, but according to her, education was the light that dispelled all the illusion. It was a light that provided reason. It was the light that provided the faculty, the scientific temper. So उसके according, women were denied education, और उनकी वजह से they could not develop all those quality that can give them a equal footing with that of men. Then she also believed that women were deliberately kept in a state of ignorance. They were taught to value appearance over intellect. They were taught to beautify themselves, and they were conditioned to be emotionally dependent and submissive. So यहाँ पे एक accusation है against the patriarchy कि patriarchy ने women को patriarchy conditioned women to be submissive, क्योंकि patriarchy ने उनको कहा है कि you have to be beautiful, you have to beautify yourself, you have to appear good, you have to please men. So यहाँ पे ये quote देखते हैं, taught from infancy that beauty is the women's scepter, the mind shaped itself to the body and roaming around its guilt cage only seeks to adorn its prison. So now in this beautiful and artistically crafted piece of work, this powerful metaphor, Wollstonecraft described how social norms imprison women intellectually. क्योंकि social norms हैं, उन्होंने कहा कि women should focus their attention only to beautify themselves. This beautification should be their only ideal, the purpose of their existence. And this norm has imprisoned them because now they are devoting all of their time, their energy, their focus, their attention, their intellectual capacity only on this sole purpose. So उसकी वजह से वो एक जेल में कैद हो गए हैं, और उस जेल से जब तक बाहर नहीं आएंगे they will not develop themselves intellectually. And now जिस तरह से ये वाला जो था एजुकेशन, एक वोल्स्टनक्राफ्ट ने एक implicit explanation दी, implicit value बताई एजुकेशन की, और उसी तरह से यहाँ पे इंटेलेक्ट की भी एक implicit value बताई है, that the real beauty lies in the intellect. If you know, if you read, if you study, if you beautify your mind, that's the real beauty. The outer appearance, it is going to fade away with the time. Now she insisted on the urgent need for equal educational opportunity for girls and boys, and by which she put forward her argument कि अगर दोनों को सेम इंटेलेक्चुअल ट्रेनिंग दी जाए, सेम एजुकेशनल अपॉर्चुनिटीज दी जाए, तो women would become just as rational, virtuous and autonomous as men. So in short, her accusation against patriarchy about systemic denial of education to make women conditioned to be submissive and an object of procreation that seem nullified here by providing education. And उस वुल्सन क्रॉफ्ट के अकॉर्डिंग अगर एजुकेशन दी जाए, शिक्षा मिलेगी, तो वो भी दे विल स्टैंड शोल्डर टू शोल्डर विद मैन. Now, education, in her view, was not merely academic, and it never is. Education is never academic. It is the foundation of moral development and personal independence. Now, she brought in not the scientific criteria, but the revolting and the emotion, the revolution and the emotional criteria to justify her need for education, to put forward her argument in support of education, that it was necessary for moral development and personal independence, which was necessary for women to gain an equal acceptance in the society. बट अल्टीमेटली अगर एजुकेशन को दूसरी तरह से देखें तो एजुकेशन इज वेरी इंपॉर्टेंट बिकॉज इट expands your mind, it clears your mind, it gives you the leverage to know the right from wrong. And by linking education to Enlightenment values of reason, liberty, and civic participation, Wollstonecraft redefined women as potential citizens rather than passive subjects. So here is a challenge and an opportunity that she saw by presenting the women, the better half of society, as potential citizen. Okay, they are not just the machines to procreate, the machines to produce babies. They are potential citizens if they are given the opportunities. And that's why she is known as the first pioneer of modern feminist political thought. And the second of her ideas, women as rational and potential citizens, moving beyond the domestic sphere. So here Wollstonecraft boldly confronted the words of a leading thinker of that time, Jean-Jacques Rousseau, who in Emile asserted that women should be educated solely to serve and please men. So ये वैसे उस वक्त का आइडिया था जिस वक्त स्लेवरी भी एग्जिस्ट कर रही थी, तो ऐसे बहुत सारी जो बोगस इंस्टीट्यूशंस मौजूद थे, वो वक्त की बात है. But then she rejected this narrow view and argued that women are not merely wives and mothers, not merely the procreating machines, but they are also fully rational human beings which are capable of moral reasoning and critical judgment. And she posed the sharp challenge. If Enlightenment ideals celebrate reason, liberty, and equality, then why half of the society excluded from this political endeavor? And by this challenge, by posing this challenge, she exposed the gender double standard of modern political society. So, in one way or another, her ideas were bold and revolutionary. कि अगर the society was talking about equality, but they are not providing equal opportunity to the one half of society, then this is nothing but double standard. And her radical insight asserted that women should be recognized as active political agent, by which they should be entitled to the right to vote and stand for public office, the right to own property and engage in paid work, and the right to influence laws and policies as a full citizen. All in all, she sought the full political stature that was enjoyed by man. And then when she talked about this political landscape, she also expanded the meaning of various its associations like citizenship, democracy, voices, women's voices, experience, autonomy, for better conditions of women. Now the third concept, critique of gender norms. freedom from false femininity. Then Wollstonecraft was not merely advocating for women's rights. She was also delivering a bold critique to social construction of femininity itself. He was attacking the false scaffold. Scaffold means the structure, the raw structure upon which a building is built. So she exposed that false scaffold upon which the society built itself. कि the societal construction है, the social construction है about the the dichotomy between the existence of man and women. This is not true. The difference between what the society considered as masculine and feminine are not legible. They are not legitimate. They are not justified. Then she argued that society conditions women to prioritize beauty, charm, and obedience over reason, independence, and self-respect. So यहाँ पे she accused society of conditioning. Conditioning means making them believe in such bogus idea, believe in such illusions that women are equated with beauty, charm, and obedience. और इस illusion के साथ, when society gave women this illusion that they are beautiful and they should work full throttle, work full time to build themselves in such a way, this in exchange for this revolution, this illusion, women were snatched off their independence. तो एक तरफ सोसाइटी ने उनको कहा कि यू आर ब्यूटीफुल और दूसरी तरफ उनसे they snatch the right to exist as equal citizens. And this behavior shaped them into passive beings who become slave to their passions. So यहाँ पे the society, it is only hitting itself on the wrong foot. ये एक मुहावरा है हिंदी में इसका, एक अपने ही पैरों पे कुल्हाड़ी मारना, hitting itself on wrong foot. यानी women, they constitute 50% of population and they have certain potential. If you look for that, if you want to cherish this potential and if you work for that, then you can achieve that potential and the humanity can progress manifold if you look it that way. But if you want to subjugate them for one reason or another, and in that case you have everything to lose. You are not going to gain anything out of it. कैसे होगा? आप 50% पॉपुलेशन को, लेट्स से टुडे के आज के टाइम पे around 4 billion population, 4 billion people, you have locked them away from their potential, from technological upgradation, from their ideas. So 4 billion people means 4 billion ideas, 4 billion endeavors, 4 billion companies, 4 billion CEOs, 4 billion ministers, 4 billion craft person, 4 billion entrepreneurs. So you have locked them away, you have shooed them away just because you want them to imprison themselves in this beauty charm. So that's how you are going to hit yourself in the wrong foot. Like these people, their idea, their potential can be utilized, and such utilization can, push our civilization, push our existence manifold in a better way, if you look in that direction. But finally, coming back to our chapter, Wollstonecraft did not blame women from this condition. So in one way or another, she was trying to shift the blame, और वो भी 50% सही है कि 50% women can be blamed only for 50% of what they did. First, they fell for this illusion. ये उनकी गलती है. But this illusion was put forward, this illusion was forwarded by men, so उनकी सिर्फ आधी गलती हो सकती है. But यहाँ पे Wollstonecraft, she blamed 100% on corrupt and patriarchal system that rewards superficiality and punishes intellectual and moral development in women. So यहाँ पे कई तरह से society is also to be blamed कि yes, if society push forward that illusion, then society can be blamed for 50%. But then society becomes an accomplice, एक शागिर्द बन जाता है in that crime if they punish such intellectual and moral development. अगर कोई women via her bold and adventurous upbringing, if her own, you know, moral caliber that does not like being caged by in that beauty and charm thing, if she push herself and if she try to bring that, intellectual charisma out of her, and उसमें अगर society उसको punish करे, then society is to be blamed. Then she extended her critique further by arguing that such norm damage man as well. और वो सही भी है, because in that way, first men are losing 50% the potential partner, 50% potential employees, 50% potential entrepreneurs, and in that way, by shooing away that potential, this behavior turned them into tyrannical, vain and shallow figures. क्योंकि आज के टाइम में अगर देखें तो होमोसेपियंस के नाम पे वी आर ओनली टू बाइनरीज जनरल लेवल पे. मैं एलजीबीटी के खिलाफ नहीं हूँ, बट जनरली मैन एंड वीमन एक ब्रॉडर टर्म पे सिंप्लीफिकेशन. सो इफ दे लॉक अवे द पोटेंशियल कॉम्पिटिटर्स वीमन, देन उनकी कंपटीशन में दे आर ओनली मैन. एक बार वीमेन को कंपटीशन में लाके देखो, यू माइट गेट अ न्यू काइंड ऑफ अ न्यू labyrinth of challenges that may be posed by them, and you may come up with certain entrepreneurial behavior, certain competitive edge that you may not see in men. So यहाँ पे you must be acceptable to those challenges, but आपने पहले ही उनको लॉक कर दिया. You shoot them away in the illusion that this behavior turned yourself into nothing but vain and shallow figures. And her feminism, it emerges not as anti-man but as a vision of mutual liberation. उसके अकॉर्डिंग दिस म्यूचुअल लिबरेशन की दोनों जो सेक्सेस हैं, मैस्कुलिन एंड फेमिनिन, they have to rise above those differences, rise above those restrictive roles, rise above those illusions, and then find a platform where dignity, reason, and humanity can be shared. And finally, Wollstonecraft's critique remains powerful today. It challenges gender stereotypes because stereotypes are always negative, and you paint women in that picture as a biological entity that can be objectified, that is, pushing herself out of illusion, pushing herself, not out of illusion, pushing herself behind that illusion to adorn that image of, Miss Universe. Then such stereotypes need to be shed away with, need to be get rid of. Then her version of feminism, it questioned cultural norms, the societal scaffold, and finally she calls for true equality that is rooted in moral and intellectual partnership. कि आदमी और महिला दोनों, they are equal if you look at that way. And yes, it's not that कि सोसाइटी के अंदर सिर्फ दो ही काम है या सिर्फ सोसाइटी में पैसे कमाने का ही काम है. इकोनॉमिक एक्टिविटी और एक्टिविटी इन इटसेल्फ, इट कैन बी मैनीफोल्ड. और रिसेंटली कमल हासन जो है, लास्ट ईयर या उससे द ईयर बिफोर, उन्होंने he talk about brilliant idea about giving women the pay that is due to them because of their domestic chores. तो महिलाएं जो है घर पे काम कर रही है और जितना भी काम कर रहा है इट इज मोस्टली अनपेड, और यही काम अगर बाहर करवाया जाए, लॉन्ड्री का हो गया, फूड का हो गया, ये सब बाहर करवाते हैं तो बहुत पैसा लगता है. सो इट इन वन वे और अनदर मोस्ट ऑफ देयर डोमेस्टिक एक्टिविटीज आर अनपेड. सो यहीं पे women, if they distance themselves from this activity, from this responsibility, and instead want to compete with men in this competitive world, then men have nothing but to lose. Now let's talk about a landmark work of Vindication of the Rights of Women. So in this groundbreaking book, she challenged the ideas of thinkers of that time. जैसे रूसो का भी बताया, who in Emil said that कि महिलाओं का रोल क्या है, to please men. So this text was a rebuttal to those thinkers who wanted to confine women to the domestic roles. So This text is a bold blend of moral philosophy, political critique, and social commentary, and all of these ideas are anchored in Enlightenment values of reason, justice, and human dignity. In short, उस वक्त के जो men हैं, they used to think that women should remain confined to the domestic hearth, and this text, it was rebuttal to that thinking, a response to that thinking. Now, the major arguments forwarded by her were women must be educated like men so that they can become morally responsible and rational citizen. So, in one way or another, she wanted to present it that women are potential citizens, and their potential is being, you know, put down. It's smothered or squeezed by the conditioning of society. Then the second argument that marriage without equality reduces men to the status of dependents of slaves. So अगर एक शादी में women are not considered equal, and if she considered morally and intellectually incapable, inferior, then that marriage is sham. That marriage will lead to nothing but dependent or slave status to women. And the third argument put forward by that the true aim of society should be cultivate free and thinking individual, not ornamental dolls trained only to please men. कि जो महिलाएं हैं, they should be conditioned, they should be taught to cultivate free thought, and this illusion should be dispelled. They are not object, they are not the thing to please men, and this hypocrisy should be done away with. So this book sparked controversy, and when she was famously dismissed as the hyena in petticoats, and this particular work, it becomes the foundational text of modern political thought, feminist thought. Now the next, her broader vision, gender, morality, and political reform. So in this way, her version of feminism, it was an attack on then existing societal scaffold, the societal and the social and political structure. So she was not just advocating for women's rights. She was questioning the very foundation of how society was built, how society used to define virtue, power, and justice, what the ideals on which the society was built. और ये even I think कि society try to justify power and many other bogus things. Like power is necessary because we belong to that breed of animals, the primates that quarrel among themselves, that seek power, where hierarchy is the norm. Yes, so power is the thing. But if you want to think the societal structure, if you create a society only on the basis of power, that is not justified in the present society, because we are not in the ancient age, we are not in the medieval kingdom, we are not facing the warring states that are at our gates. हम civilization stage पे जाने की कोशिश कर रहे हैं, then we should move away from the hierarchy that is associated with the power, and we should diversify ourselves. जैसे इन्वेस्टमेंट पोर्टफोलियो भी डाइवर्सिफाई करते हैं हम लोग, कि पहले सिर्फ जो एफडी होती थी, एफडी एंड आरडी, उसके बाद से हम आज म्यूचुअल फंड्स के अंदर, स्टॉक्स के अंदर, इक्विटीज के अंदर, डेट्स के अंदर वी आर डाइवर्सिफाइंग आवरसेल्फ, एनएफटी टोकन्स भी हैं. सो ऐसे में जब इतना डाइवर्सिफिकेशन यहाँ पे हो सकता है, तो व्हाई सोसाइटी इज सीन ओनली इन द पावर टर्म? देयर आर मैनी मोर थिंग्स. देन फॉर हर true reform, it meant a moral revolution. Revolution on the moral term, where both men and women must be valued not for wealth, beauty, or status, but the thing that they achieve. The stated status should not be ascribed, but an achieved status. अगर आप लोगों को नहीं पता है तो मैं बता देता हूँ. Ascribed status, that is the status that is associated with your birth. अगर आप अमीर खानदान में पैदा हुए हैं तो then you are rich, so that is an ascribed status. But the achieved status is the one जो आप अपनी मेहनत से खुद को घिस के आप बनाते हैं. तो यहाँ पे she gave a vehement value to the achieved status. कि सोसाइटी जो है वो वेल्थ ब्यूटी एंड स्टेटस से मूव अवे एंड देन गिव इक्वल और मोर सर्विस मोर टोन टू द थिंग्स दैट पीपल अचीव कैरेक्टर रीजन सर्विस इंटेलेक्चुअल पैशंस इन सबको ज्यादा मिलना चाहिए ज्यादा लेवरेज मिलना चाहिए. Then she challenged the divide between private and public sphere by arguing that injustice in the family mirrors and reinforces injustice in the state. Now, let me give you a background. कि आज के टाइम में तो पब्लिक एंड प्राइवेट स्पेयर जो है वो वैसा नहीं है दैट एग्जिस्टेड ड्यूरिंग 17th एंड 18th सेंचुरी. सो उस टाइम पे what a man does inside his family, how a man behaves with his wife was his affair. ये उस टाइम की थिंकिंग थी. फिर डोमेस्टिक वायलेंस वगैरह ये सब चीजें तो दे वर हश्ड अप थिंग्स. नोबडी टॉक अबाउट देम. इट वाज जस्ट अ मैन्स यूजुअल बिजनेस. तो यहाँ पे जो इनजस्टिस उस टाइम का था विच शी हैज हाईलाइटेड कि उस वक्त का जो इनजस्टिस है it is a mirror and a storm that is soon going to engulf the state. According to her, if the state allows that injustice to happen in any family, then sooner or later that monster is going to eat the state. That injustice is going to reinforce in the state structure. So this insight that personal is political, it later became cornerstone of modern political theory. Now let's talk about legacy and contemporary relevance. So first, liberal feminism. So thinkers like John Stuart Mill, Betty Friedan, they carried her emphasis on legal rights, individual freedom. ये सब आपके यूजीसी के लिए इम्पोर्टेंस है तो आप देख लीजिए. So Virginia Woolf and Simone de Beauvoir, she considered her a trailblazer for her modern feminist theory. और one way or another, she was the first one. वैसे ये कैच फ्रेज हो गया मेरा one way or another और आप कुछ और ही यूज कीजिए. तो the next one, next legacy, her idea support debate on gender justice, equal pay, education rights, reproductive autonomy. So ये सब चीजें जो हैं आप इसमें एक्सप्लेनेटरी कुछ भी नहीं है बट आप लोग जो है अपने एग्जाम पॉइंट ऑफ व्यू से इन सबको देखें और ये कितने इंपॉर्टेंट है वो अभी आपको पीवाईक्यू इनसाइट्स में दिख जाएगा. देन ग्लोबल इंस्टीट्यूशन लाइक UN Women, they also echo the argument for empowerment through education and political participation. Fair the criticisms. Then while she is widely respected today, her work has been criticized. First criticism leveled on her was she focused mainly on white middle class women. So in that way, she did not address the struggle of working class or colonized women. Then एक और चीज यहाँ पे है कि she did not address the issue of working class or colonized women क्योंकि उस टाइम पे the time I'm talking about 1700s, the beginning of 18th century, उस टाइम पे नई तो टेक्नोलॉजी थी नई कम्युनिकेशन था and nor did the thinkers of the time know that such conditions were equally reciprocated in other society of the world, other cultures of the world. So यहाँ पे ये चीज यहीं छोड़ देते हैं कि yes, she did not talk about them, but we know that she might not have an idea that such situation existed or such culture existed in any other parts of the world. And some critics argue that she was too focused on equality with man rather than questioning male-defined standards of rationality. So now this one is a good standard. Okay, if you want to achieve the status of man, if you want to achieve parity with man, then you must look towards the standards of rationality that the man have built. Now, if you can stand up to those standards, then only after that you should seek parity with man. In other words, ये चीज ऐसी है like most of the जो manual works हैं जो hard work है जो physical work है that requires manual dexterity and precision and strength, उन सब में जो men है they work, you know, कितनी वीमन जो है दे आर कारपेंटर, कितनी वीमन जो है दे आर मैसन्स, कितनी वीमन जो है वो टेक्नीशियंस हैं, कितनी वीमन जो है वो फिटर्स हैं या प्लम्बर्स हैं। तो यहाँ पे जो स्टैंडर्ड्स हैं of rationality of occupation. So first, look at those standards. If you can fit yourself and you can really find a work for yourself in those standards, then after arriving a hard bargain, you can achieve the parity. And finally, the PYQ insights. So question often focus on Wollstonecraft, emphasis on reason and education. Then her criticism of Rousseau's idea on women's role. ये भी क्वेश्चन पूछा गया. Then PYQ tests familiarity with this work, especially the argument she put forward for moral and civic equality of women. Then जो public versus private sphere debate जो भी बताया है, and its link to feminist theory is also a conceptual angle in MCQs, where her ideas are paired with other liberal thinkers like John Locke or Stuart Mill. Then there are many questions about rational autonomy, rights, and political agency of women. And finally, the identification of early feminist contribution to Enlightenment political theory. अब इनमें से जो भी अगर आपको समझ में नहीं आया है या फिर आप फर्दर क्लैरिफिकेशन चाहते हैं तो कमेंट बॉक्स में देख लेना. कमेंट बॉक्स आपका ही है, पूछते रहिए. फिर कंक्लूजन एक बार क्विक रिव्यू. So her political thought laid the foundation of modern political theory by providing, reason, education, and equality as a ground. And she argued that the women's subordination and subjugation was not natural but socially manufactured. That society has conditioned women on the way of restrictive gender norms. Where her important work, a vindication of the rights of women, which demanded equal rights for women in education, citizenship, and moral agency. And then she criticized not only patriarchy but the overall scaffold of society by questioning the entire system of power and virtue, and then differentiating private and public spheres of life. So this is it. And then quick question है, you can drop the comments. And there is one more thing about the voluntary contribution. उसके लिए आपको comment जो है उसमें दिख जाएगा. And this may be a nuisance to somebody, but please excuse me. I'm running out of saving, and it's all I can ask of you. A little voluntary contribution. Link आपको description में मिल जाएगा. And rest is up to you. Thank you very much.